The American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma, the beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Featuring David Vann, creator of SoonerPolitics.org, expert on Oklahoma state government, and he just recently ran for state vice chair. Also joining us every week, David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com, political leader, educational speaker, and of course me, comedian, political humorist, father of five, and former Tulsa mayoral candidate Tommy McKay, the verbal Viking. Here we are once again, kiddies, and we've got a full show, a lot of stuff. We're going to have to roll hard. I've got 6 minutes of audio from the dynamic and effervescent GT Bynum, which is enough to put anybody to sleep. But you and me and he, it'll be up to us three to keep everybody awake. But 6 minutes, courtesy of KRMG, their interview they did with Bynum. But we're going to do the city budget, or as South Park would call it, a shitty budget, and a 17th Amendment. We're going to talk about the 17th Amendment. We didn't get to that last week. There's a Ben Sass bill that Oldham found from a year ago. Nathan Dahm is in the news, and it's always exciting when Nathan Dahm is in the news. Van is going to bring us the state of Oklahoma. Sooner Politics is at the state capitol. Big news at the state capitol.
Yeah.
David Vann, and Oldham is going to talk to us a little bit tonight and teach us about the idea of D.C. statehood, that is Washington, D.C. becoming a state, and is that constitutional? So here we go. But before we go, you know what we do. We pretend to be human. And you know, I am a robot, but I always was taught, and I have a virtual routine that I do that pretends to be human. I went to a wedding of some of the finest people I've ever met. There's only one family that competes with greatness, according to my family, and that is these people, they are the Griggs. And I will tell you that Maya and Garrison got married this weekend. Finest event I've ever been to, and I was a human being, and I danced in the line that they danced. You'll never see the video.
You did line dancing?
I did. I won just because I'm such a nice guy. Oldham, Van, what do you guys
and
got?
They taught you how to dance, right?
Well, I obviously don't have a man crush, but I had a great time at the Capitol.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh, man, there's just some great news we're going to be talking about the intrigue and drama going on at the state capitol. That's later in the show.
Okay.
So, and I was there to watch it.
And you went to a birthday party or something?
Yeah.
Oldham,
if I had a man crush on anybody at the Capitol, it'd probably be John Eccles. I mean, he's just a winner.
Okay, that's human.
So
that's human. I've had a man crush before, but
hey, I got Eccles to approve an interim study for me this summer. We're going to be talking about that as we get closer to it, but we're going to be doing some rocking and rolling. And I pulled together a great team at the Capitol, including John Eccles, and we're going to have some great announcements coming up. The mental health advocates are going to be really excited about this.
Oldham, I used to open my comedy routine with by instead of telling them where I'm from, I would say, my name is wannabe Matthew McConaughey Jr. and then go from there. But what about you, Oldham? What happened for you for real? No work. What's for real?
Well, have you been enjoying this weather we've been having lately?
Way to go, Oldham. Yes.
I mean, we've been sitting out on the back porch having coffee in the morning. It's been kind of warm. Watching the ducks. We've got ducks that have now gotten used to the bird feeder, and they're sitting up on the fence now. And they would never do that before, but they're now up on the fence and dropping stuff for all their fellow ducks that won't get on the fence. But anyway, it's been fun doing that. But hey, back to work, and I have to warn you. Stay tuned for later in the show.
Okay.
Big announcement. We have a major international celebrity coming to Tulsa for the Tulsa 9/12 meeting next week. Brexit founder Nigel Farage is
Ooh.
coming.
Tell us
I think
about
next month.
Speaking of man crushes.
Later. Oh my God.
And so we'll give you
What's
the details later in the show. But Nigel Farage, if you've ever wanted to meet a nice guy, I participated in an online thing with him the other day, and just as nice and down home as you can.
Before we get started, because you're going to tell us later about when he's showing up and all the other stuff, but for the people who are literally less intelligent than me, who is this guy? What is he?
Okay, well, you guys may have heard that Great Britain has left the European Union.
It's true.
Nigel Farage is the European Union member of the British member of one of the British members of the European Union Parliament.
One of the delegates.
And he was one of the delegates to there, and he led the Brexit movement. Great Britain leaving the EU. That is who he is. He's the one who they literally kicked out.
Yes.
Parliament.
And take your flag with you, they said.
What's that?
Then they said, and take your flag with you. If you're going to leave and take your flags with you.
Because he was waving a flag illegally in the parliament.
Right. That's against the rules of the parliament there. That nobody elected.
Exactly.
But they rule all of Europe.
Yes. And we're going to be talking about EU through this whole episode tonight, and some of the crud that's coming down there. And because of him, Britain's not necessarily a part of it. If they do something, it's on their own. It's not because they're being dictated to by the EU.
Yeah.
I really wish I would have never humanized you guys. It took 10 minutes.
There you go. You wanted to know who he is.
I got what I asked for.
Deal.
There you go. So we do. We have a big deal coming up with that, and that is excellent. So we're going to rip apart this interview. It's 6 minutes long, and we'll just go as fast as we can. So remember, we're not trying to finish the discussion with this. We're going to talk about GT Bynum on KRMG. I believe it's with Rick Corey. And I'm sorry, Rick Corey, and they talking about the budget and a couple of other things. And if you guys, as we play it, this is the stop and start game. So you can say stop the tape and make a comment. And I know I have comments, and we'll work as fast as we can to kill this in 20 minutes, because it is going to be hard to do. To set this up, from the Tulsa city website, balancing the budget, it says from the city of Tulsa, at the city of Tulsa, balancing the budget is not much different than balancing a budget at the home. Money is going out, must not exceed the money coming in. State law requires the city of Tulsa have a balanced budget. Would everybody like to just stop and cackle right there? State law. State law.
Sure we do.
Cackle
sure we
your
do.
Elbow. That's correct. Because the balanced budget. What a joke. They send it all off under a trust. It's a whole joke. So the city of Tulsa, and I know you guys will know more than me. The city of Tulsa, it says from the city of Tulsa website, receives its money from several major sources, including 5 local taxes: sales tax, use tax, franchise or right-of-way user fees from utility companies, hotel motel tax, ad valorem tax, and other sources like enterprise revenues, airport charges, golf course fees, and utility services, which I thought utility services would be part of what they say fees from utility companies. He just said franchise and tax this is GT Bynum says that we get part of our money from franchise tax right-of-way user fees from utility companies. 2 sentences down, he says other sources include enterprise revenues from airport charges, golf cart charges, and utility services. Water.
Utilities, that would be the water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
Is that different?
Yes, water and sewer is different from the electric and gas company.
Okay, well, that's why I'm here.
The electric and gas are private concerns, but the water and sewer in Tulsa are owned by the city. So when you pay your bill, you're paying it to the city of Tulsa.
Every city's different on that. Like you go to Tahlequah, and it's the city that provides the electricity.
Okay. Okay. So all we're doing here is purposely opening worms. The main thing I was concerned about, the city also, it says here, the city also obtains revenue from licenses and permits, which was my campaign in 2016 about extending the lifespan of these licenses and permits. I've got the highlights here. We won't go through them all. The number one is of the budget, 1921 Graves investigation. That's GT Bynum's number one. This is reported here from April 21. It's here somewhere. So community response team is one of his things. Compensation adjustment is salary performance increases for eligible employees. So again, it's like an emergency thing for employees. Mowing cycles, that's a big thing that comes up in the audio we're going to talk about. Municipal court, neighborhood street lighting, which is my complaint from 2016.
Public, do they still light any streets?
Are you kidding me? This is so incredible. Plus, he was in the city council decades ago, which comes up in the audio. Decades.
You guys should move to Broken Arrow, because
I love this. In the audio, he's like, paraphrasing. GT Bynum's like, decades ago, we used to suck in the city. This was you in the city council before you were mayor, sucking 100%. All right, enough of that. Here he is, courtesy, or actually, I should say, hat tip, despite them. KRMG with GT Bynum. Let's see what he's
on Mondays at this time is Tulsa Mayor GT Bynum. And Mayor, I know you presented the budget to the city council, and I know you've really streamlined that whole process.
Right there, he says he streamlined the whole process. I literally don't know what he's talking about. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, he's kissing up. This is Rick Corey having his
Rick Corey. Well, that's a whole nother show. But anyway, something that they've done, and maybe you know more than me, they've streamlined whatever he does with the budget. Remember, GT Bynum is famous for the off-campus meetings where it's in violation, in my opinion, of the Transparency Act. But anyway, apparently GT Bynum's done something to streamline the budget process.
Where are we now, and when will it actually be signed and official, you think?
So the council and I have been working on this for months now.
The council and I have been working on this for months now. Apparently, GT Bynum has got a new retainer. His retainer must have been prescribed to him by Dr. Dart from the House of Government. Because apparently GT Bynum has a new retainer.
It doesn't quite fit.
He's going to be the new spokesperson to Tulsa.
Okay.
And you mentioned that's a change that we put in place when I became mayor that really, I think, improves the system, makes it less of a annual fight between the mayor and the council.
Okay, here's where he talks about the fight between the mayor and the council, which is supposed to be the part of the balancing act of the budget that he brags that we have. But later I'll bring into focus why it's such a fraud that he says that the council's working with the mayor. Okay.
And more of a joint work product.
Oh, it's a joint work.
So I presented that last week. It's pretty much a flat budget. It's balanced.
It's pretty much so flat and balanced, kind of like my high school girlfriend, what is this flat and balanced? It's absolutely bullcrap.
It is about the same as was last year.
In the Vision 2025 package that he pushed 6 years ago, They pretended that your taxes don't go up, i.e. they're flat, because they have to increase the taxes back up to giving me my temporary penny back. Here we go.
No tax increases or anything like that, and it allows us to maintain our public safety staffing levels and
maintain our public safety staffing levels. So also you guys are continuing to listen to me, your Verbal Viking. Email me at verbalviking@gmail.com. And it's always David Van from Soonerpolitics.org and David Oldham joining us also every Monday night from 7 to 8 p.m. on 3D Politics Live. But there he goes. He talks about the flat and balanced, no tax increase. And then what did he just say?
End the hiring freeze that we've had.
He talked about we're going to be able to add safety. Now, remember back when he was pushing the Vision 2025 package? This brings us into focus where we already plunged through the Brown ordinance to destroy what is the third penny sales tax. In June 1st, in Tulsa, the city sales tax goes up by 26.5%. and this was planned 6 years ago. I don't know why he acts like it's a surprise that we're suddenly going to add or subtract police
had in place for other employees. And so now the council has about 2 months to evaluate it, and a budget has to be adopted by the end of June. But
now he just said he's worked with the council for months on this thing. They've agreed for months on this thing. And now he's like, now it goes up for review. To who? The people you've been agreeing with for months. Why do we wait? Now listen to what Rick Corey says.
As I said, this is something we've been working together on. If there are things that tweaks that need to be made, we've got 2 months to do that, but we'll work together as we have
Rick,
for all the process leading up to this. We'll work together for the next 2 months moving forward to make sure it's just right.
Good. It doesn't have to wait. So it's because you guys have worked together well, it could actually be done before that. Is that right?
Yeah, now why the hell would we wait for 2 months when you guys have already agreed what you're going to do? Are you kicking back and coasting for 2 weeks, right? I mean, this is ridiculous. It's a total fraud. They've already agreed what they're going to do, literally 4 months. Why are we waiting 2 weeks? And Rick Corey, even in his doldrums, says like, well, we don't have to wait 2 weeks.
It could.
Doesn't have to wait.
Kind of, I'm trying to think of a good comparison.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things where there's so many variables that go into it. It's usually best to wait until you get into mid-June to adopt it.
Now, does anybody love that? Where GT Bynum, even though he agreed with spending money 5 and 6 years ago, today, 6 years ago, he agreed on throwing away the third penny sales tax. Van, what do you got?
Oh, well, there's one obvious reason why you do it is you want to invite moaning and whining and bitching and complaining and a bunch of people throwing a fit to get some more. Mm-hmm. And you're literally setting it up for that. Now, I appreciate having a public review when an agency's proposing new rules. You got to do that. But, this is something different. I mean,
so
yeah, that's what my
flopping on GT Bynum, as he says here in a second, you got to get into mid-June to chart the trends. Well, he sure as hell didn't need to get into mid-June to chart the trends 6 years ago when he spent our money to raise the sales tax in Tulsa, Oklahoma by 26.5%. Yeah. He spent the money in advance 6 years ago. And not only did he do that, he bullied the citizenry by teaming up with his uncle, Dewey Bartlett Jr. Both of them bullied us out of our temporary penny, which was the only reason I ran for mayor, is I want my penny back. That's all I really wanted was my penny.
Just to chart trends, obviously we're in a much better position this year than we were a year ago when
so funny.
We spent 9 months developing a budget with the council, and then March hits and you have a recession, a pandemic.
Okay. He says here they spent 9 months working on something, and then there was a recession and then a pandemic. What recession is he talking about?
Well, the recession that I think the recession that he's talking about that came from the pandemic.
There was the oil economy. If you remember, there was a crash in the oil market just in 19 going into 20. And that's on oil. I don't know how much that impacts Tulsa economics, but it was
that's what he's talking
statewide.
About.
I don't know. That's my speculation.
Okay, we'll give him an out on that one. Here we go.
Yeah.
Pandemic, and we really had to put a budget together in about 6 weeks.
Okay, you work for 9 months, and then there's a recession and the pandemic. He says we got to put together a thing in 6 weeks. It's just like
last year. This year, obviously, we're in a much better position, thankfully, and so I would expect it to be a pretty smooth process. But I'm respectful of the fact that to date, this has very much been kind of in the administration's court as far as working with the council to develop it. Now it's in the council's court, and hopefully we can work with them to answer.
Okay, this is more fraudulent bullcrap, 100% shoved down the injection routine. He said earlier, we've worked for months. That is him, the administration, has worked with the council for months. They've agreed for months. Now we're going to pretend there's a 2-month waiting period where we've got to let the council see if they really agreed with what we already agreed on. And now he's saying, well, what did he say? There's some sort of, it was in one court, the administration court. Then he says it's in the council. It's bull crap. 100%. You guys are one court. There's 100% agreement for months. And this is total bull crap. Oldham, please help me before I curse again.
Well,
stop me before I curse again.
In Tulsa, Tulsa does have a little more of an executive and legislative activities because the mayor is an administrator. He's an executive.
Whereas, it's a strong mayor form of government, unlike Oklahoma City, which is
the mayor is not a part of the council.
Right.
And so, and with that, you have the council who has to agree because it has to come from the legislative side. And so he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. They've done all this work, they've agreed, but your propriety says it's like all the why you're against the 17th Amendment. It's the gamesmanship that they play on the public in the Senate, in the U.S. Senate and the state Senate. It's a bunch of junk. It's
100% fraudulent. While Oldham is able to explain the logistics and the logic, really, of the idea of what's going on, we know that he said a minute ago, we were in lockstep. We've already agreed for months and blah, blah, blah. And now, you know what? Let's wait for the judge's decision. It's like, bull crap. You guys already came together. Why are you pretending, Van?
No, I'm stuck on this last thing about the mayor. This mayor actually does run an administration. And I'll show you an example of that. Those who can remember Kathy Taylor operating the city like a tyrant and whipping the city council into shape constantly. And he can operate this way. He just doesn't. He doesn't have it in him like Kathy Taylor did. She wore the pants.
Right. And he looks better in a skirt.
And let's understand also that he did not have a good answer when he was questioned. Why wait? He didn't have a good answer because there isn't one. That's why the hemming and hawing with
right.
propriety, and he couldn't come up with a good reason. It's better to do it that way. And perhaps there are some valid reasons for waiting. You never know what might come up, but the point is that they're going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Well, the point being, if it's a fiscal calendar government that, budget that starts, say, in July or August, then you want to, be fine tuning it up until you really have to put it in place and start making those decisions. So there is such a thing as authorizing a budget too soon.
Well, the fact that he talks out of both sides of his mouth is really the point of the bit. And here we go.
It's typical. Says a lot of nothing.
I know get mowing cycles in there and all kinds of things which make a lot of people happy. But when this is done, let's say it's signed and approved and even take us to June, what's the first actionable money people will see kind of making an effect in town?
I think the big things that people will see immediately, because it'll be in the summertime, is all of our pools and splash pads will be reopened.
Okay, you guys, isn't that important to you first? Because, the main thing about, mowing cycles is one thing, but by God, you know how often you guys and I meet at the splash pad.
Tom, listen, the swimming pools used to be a big thing all over Tulsa.
What year?
And then they shut all of them down except a few of them, mostly in North Tulsa. So South Tulsa's learned that, we're going to have to pay for our own, swimming pool or club or resort or spa. And, and now we got splash pads.
But look at the priority that he's going to dig up for dead bodies from 1921. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody.
Which they've come up empty-handed now.
Here's the problem
Yeah,
here's the problem with Bynum. He's not only trying to serve the needs of people from 1921, he doesn't serve the needs of the people who live here today by mowing and lighting, but he spends money to bring people from Colorado to buy a house and live here for a year. They're literally, and he spends money for the future of people, and he wants to spend money to bring industry here and people here and bring. It's like, how about the people who have lived here? You know what? There's not a hardly. I literally cannot think of one person I know. I don't know anybody that still lives in Tulsa. Okay. I've been here. I was born here. I've been a full between Tulsa and Norman, virtually Tulsa, mostly my whole entire life with a few anomalies. And there's not one person that still lives in Tulsa. Nobody that lives in Tulsa now knows what the Vision 2025 package was 6 years ago. The GT Bynum today shoved down our throats before. Okay. Nobody knows that. And we got to hurry up. All right, here we go.
The day camps in our parks will be expanded. As you mentioned, we have the recommended number of mowing cycles in there.
So the recommended number of mowing cycles.
We've also, the council and I last year, we lifted a decade-old moratorium on putting up new street lights in neighborhoods.
Okay, a decade. Okay, I'm gonna try not to curse. A decade-old moratorium on streetlights, and who was in the city council a decade ago? Ah! GT Bynum. What was the person who put in the decades-old moratorium on streetlights?
Well, I got to say, I went to the city council in your district 10 years ago when Dewey Bartlett was mayor, and I presented to him an article from 1992 when Dewey was a city councilor, trying to address the crime problem at 61st and Peoria. And you know what? All the businesses there did all the things that were on their list, and the city did almost none. And the number one thing that's not fixed yet, 20 years later, is they still don't have enough street lights. Once you get to 61st, you're out in the county. Yeah, everything's south of there. It's horrible. So yes, and listen, we're dying out here because of it. A mother pushing her stroller going across the street at an intersection was killed and her baby killed because it was too dark.
This is a true thing. Van got business done out there in the Peoria and 61st.
I got one crosswalk with flashing lights, but you know what? The whole mile of street lights on South Peoria from 61st to 71st is still a county road.
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
It is. It is like going into an unincorporated part of the city.
Yeah, you remember you guys used to come over to my studio to do this show. Once you got south of 61st, my God, it was dark as could be.
Well, I used to live out there.
Okay, then you got a job, right?
Hey, we're closing in on the half hour, but we're not going to let GT Bynum off the hook, and we can kick it all night long. It goes like this. We're going to play some more from the interview. Hat Tip, KRMG, and Rick Corey.
We did over 100 last year, and we have budgeted to do over 100
Let's talk about
more,
street lights
in the coming year. And then, as I mentioned, the key thing for us in the last year, and I can't say enough about the way that our non-sworn employees sacrificed to make this happen.
Okay, he's
Stop that for a second.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Did you know that there's not a single employee in government that is to be non-sworn?
No, tell us.
This past week, I went to the Broken Arrow City Council and watched the new city councilor sworn in. One was a repeat. Okay. And they gave 2 oaths, and one was a loyalty oath. And so I looked up, I was trying to figure out where this loyalty oath came from, because the judge who gave the thing, he threw it in there, and the counselors didn't have any idea it was coming. They're like, we have to take 2 oaths? Because
you're listening to the brilliance of David Oldham on 3D Politics Live every Monday. Go.
So what happened was I looked it up, and it's in the Oklahoma statutes, and it declares that every employee has to take the loyalty oath, which says that they will abide by or obey the Constitution and laws of the United States and Constitution and laws of the state of Oklahoma, and do their job to the best of their ability. And so it's really interesting that he talks about sworn and non-sworn. It means non-police officers, but even those people are supposed to be sworn. So my question is, we need to check into this, because I have a feeling there's a whole lot of employees out there who don't realize that they're sworn.
Absolutely.
And are doing jobs that preclude them from ever holding elective office in the state of Oklahoma right now.
And Oldham, you're the perfect person to hunt that thing down. I love that.
I'm going to work on it. I just found it. So it's been
now in another rabbit trail, Oldham.
I just hooked him. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening every Monday night. We're at the bottom of the hour. We're lighting it up once again. The independent voice, the finder of fact, the verifier of truth, the promoter of the arts, even. Right here, 3D Politics Live, your verbal Viking, Tommy McKay, and David Van, creator of Sooner Politics, joining us every week, 2 years in the making. David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com. We're just ripping apart the GT Bynum fraud that came down all day long for 6 minutes at I could be a little more dramatic, but I don't know. So here we go. We got just a few more minutes. Anything else? Like, Oldham, like I said, this idea, the difference between staff versus civil servant. He continues to talk about these non-sworn, like they damn Trump for the loyalty test, but then they're like, oh, sworn employees are so much better than non-sworn. And, you know, it's kind of like your wife and your girlfriend, where your wife is sworn, your girlfriend's not. She does everything. She's not sworn. You really got a hats off to the girlfriend. She's not sworn, you know. So it's absolutely ridiculous. The fact is, all these people are civil servants like teachers. Any teacher who works with a public school system is a civil servant to the state. They do not operate in a free market. And when G.D. Bynum talks about staff, oh, yeah, my staff, my non-sworn staff, they're civil servants, for Christ's sake. They're offering their service. They're not being paid on a wage according to a free market.
You know what, Tom? While we're on this thing, Oldham started, I want to say, I think school district employees should have the same kind of concept, an oath. And you know what? We should hang a framed copy of that oath in every classroom so the kids know what oath their teacher made.
That. Yeah. I wish I could give you the Joe Rogan response. Probably nobody saw the fight Saturday night, but the Joe Rogan thing is Joe Rogan that was the best part of the fight, was the Joe Rogan. Yes, what Van just said. There should be a freaking oath. The teachers, my buddy who had dyslexia, he had to drop out in 9th grade because, like, well, we know we advanced you without trying, but now we're going to make you try. He's like, dude, so there was a whole thing there. Yeah. And his comment to me, being totally just neglected by the public schools, was like, the first oath a teacher should make, paraphrasing, is that I don't care what your certificate is or your experience is. Do you love children? Do you like children? I don't care how smart you are. If you don't like children, you should not be teaching children.
They're there to serve children.
Kids? That's the first test. Do you like kids? And then after that, we'll see what you know.
I think every teacher should be W.C. Fields.
I'm sorry, hold on. The peanut.
Oldham, get your face in here if you're going to talk.
Oh, what is it?
Sorry, I accidentally hit the button. I didn't
unmute your camera. Yeah.
It was my hand. No, I think that every teacher should be like W.C. Fields, who hated working with children.
Yeah. By the way, Oldham, since you went into the whole deal about the Broken Arrow newly elected officials, and I know that you supported a number of those, the downside of that is I blame you every time they screw up, and believe me, they will screw up.
Oh, hey, you don't know actually how I voted. You don't.
So
therefore, but here's the thing. I did support a change, and we definitely got a change. I think we have a big chance to work out.
Tommy's squirming.
I think he's answering properly. Yeah.
I, though, do not sit on that board, so I don't know how I could be held accountable. But I will take it. whatever.
Okay, so my favorite thing is we are like halfway through the show. We haven't even quit my bit yet. We're only halfway through ripping GT Bynum's interview with Rick Corey and KRMG. Here we go. Let's finish this off.
Please.
No diminishment in public safety staffing. And
hey, if you guys thought you were unsafe, you weren't, because GT Bynum tells us right now there was no diminishment in public safety staffing. Public safety staffing.
Yes, it still only takes you 9 minutes to call 911 and get an answer.
And we have a budget now that aims to keep our existing levels in place for the coming year.
What am I, Opie? We aims to keep that. I'm the job-gettingest mayor that ever had a cousin named GT, job-gettingest fascist. Oh, boy.
As well. And you look at a decade ago when we went through a similar decline in revenue, you were talking about 130 cops getting laid off that year.
It was.
In the last year. And that is because we had employees willing to sacrifice their own pay to keep public safety fully deployed.
What is he talking about?
Don't know.
Employees sacrificing their own pay.
Well, do you remember? It's been about 10 years ago. The union employees, the police union employees, decided that they were not going to sacrifice their own pay to keep the new rookies on the street.
That's true.
So they said, hit the road because we're keeping our pay for ourselves.
Yes. And it was, seniority counts. And
that is exactly what happened. And so he's saying that they've had a change of heart. Obviously, they're making enough money that they feel okay with it. But that's where things stand now. They're flush with money because of the new third penny and all of that they really didn't have to sacrifice.
That must be why KRMG has got their new promotion, Potter's Pimp Roll Payout. Sally laid over and got $50.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, but the audience does. The audience.
I'm glad somebody listens to KRMG.
My people
I stopped.
Trust me.
Literally after Rush.
Mark,
back on KRMG. I can't think of a time I've been back on.
I don't want to beg for a job or anything, but this guy on KRMG that took the slot, he's great. What's his name? Mark somebody?
Oh, yeah, Mark something. I see the things come across my.
Yeah, he literally has a name. But anyway, back to Rick.
The city council and I had underspent over the previous 3 years.
Underspent. I thought I could get going. Who says, what is this underspent? What the? So one of the things I hate about weather. One of the things I hate about weather is like, let's go. There's always a death threat in the weather.
You know what?
It could be a perfect day out there. We go to the weather center. It's like, well, the only death threat we got is you can be baked to death by the sun and no wind because it's a perfect effing day out there. But the death threat is meteorite from out of nowhere. I mean, why you know how there's like there's the presumption of innocence? For some reason, there's a presumption of threat from the weather center. Why in the hell can't we just have a day?
Talk about a rabbit trail.
Okay, let me say something here. He's trying to come off like he's some kind of a Donald Trump hard-nosed bargainer. I assure you, folks, and if you're listening, GT Bynum, you are no Donald Trump. I'm sorry, don't even try.
It's not even a word, is it?
Underspent our money. In other words, they actually were a little bit conservative with our money and didn't overspend.
Oh, okay.
Underspent means didn't overspend. Now he's going to.
Well, here's the thing.
See.
Part of the reason they got money is they shut all the libraries down.
And the lights. Oh, GT Bynum was saying, I raped you less.
They shut down all kinds of stuff.
I could have raped you more, but I raped you.
They quit serving the people.
I learned from my uncle, Dewey B.J. Jr. My God, this is insane what we put up with. Shut up, Tom. Here we go.
3 years to build our rainy day fund up. And that kept us in a good position over the last year. And now we're really ready to rebound it.
Okay, he's rebounding. They built their rainy day fund. Do you guys know what a rainy day fund is and how you build it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because things fluctuate, but you got to balance on an even keel. So you put your excess in a rainy day fund so that you kind of,
okay, I
smooth out
get
the
the
rough
concept
roads.
of rainy day fund. How does Mayor G.T. Bynum build up the rainy day fund?
Well, when you have excess, instead of spending everything you got, you stick some away for a bad time.
By underspending, I think.
Yeah.
Correct. Now we are headed for really bad times. So just get ready. But he's ready because he's underspent.
But remember, they're trying to up the property tax now because they're suffering. They don't have enough money to run the city. But Van, right?
Right. When I was at the Capitol talking to a lobbyist who was sent there by G.T. Bynum. He said, we got our bill passed. We can now add to your property tax a millage for paying for more cops. Public safety.
For our own oppression.
Because we've already passed 6 years ago, the people who don't live here anymore passed a tax on us 6 years ago that we will pay 26.5% more sales tax.
And that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. Bynum sent a lobbyist over there, and I talked to him after it passed, and he just said, until the governor signs it, I'm not resting on it. But yes, this is a good
name of the lobbyist, please.
Patrick, I believe is his last name.
I
think he worked on Dewey's campaign.
Here we go.
But we have to put it out this way, because remember, the MO, I learned this from California and watching things around the country. And then I moved out here and saw they did the exact same thing again. And that is that they always fund the essential services, fire and police, and other essential things that the city would be expected to do last after they do all of the socialist programs and all of the wastage of money. The leaders in government, the bureaucracy, once they've gotten them all that they want, then they put our essentials on the table and say, oh, we don't have enough money. You got to give us more.
Sure.
That's the MO. Every single city in Bynum is displaying it right here.
Yeah,
that is true. Hey, gentlemen, I've got breaking news. Well, I did.
Unverified, but breaking.
Where did he go? Oh my God. Okay. Hey, guess what? I've got breaking news. I've got an update coming in from out there. Red alert, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. We've been doing the entire hour on Tom's subject, but right now I've got breaking news, a surprise entrance. Let's bring in for a cameo appearance. Here he is. Jackson Longhorn.
Hey, Tom, how are you doing?
Look at this. Way to go. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well. We're here in Tulsa, driving from 71st and Sheridan, heading to 41st and Sheridan. How are you guys doing?
Man, I'm excited. This is a surprise interest. Here we go. We got candidate for Senate to repair the James Langford mistakes. Action Jackson Lahmeyer running for Senate here in Oklahoma, calling to give us an update. So where have you been? I know you had an event. I was trying to schedule you tonight, but you were booked. And so here you are calling in all of a sudden. Please tell us where you've been and what you've been talking about tonight.
Well, we've been all over the state of Oklahoma, actually. Last weekend, the weekend before, we had a huge event out at Rama in Broken Arrow, the Health and Freedom Conference. And it was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Incredible. Yeah.
4,500 people in person. They bought tickets.
Sold out.
Sold out, $250 a ticket. Now get this is the best part. There was a 50,000 person wait list to get a ticket to get in. I mean, it was incredible. You had over 10 million viewers who hopped on to watch it online. I mean, it was just, it was absolutely incredible what just happened in Tulsa.
Wow. So, and I saw your speech. There's a place you can find the Jackson Lahmeyer performance. Man, it was riveting. I loved it.
It was good.
Yeah. So
I appreciate that. That's my first one. That's my first one. First political speech. So I got to get better, but for my first one,
well,
I'll take
I
it.
liked it, and as an old stage guy, I used to do stage performance years ago, and I thought you did well. And
Yeah,
and
thank you.
about the time I thought, well, he sounds a little preachy. You were like, I might sound like a preacher.
I gotta be me. Everyone's trying to tell me
exactly
to be.
right. I mean, and this is what
Listen.
I teach the students when I used to teach acting. It's like, don't deny the reality. If it's what it is, it's what it is.
I am who I am.
Yeah, that's right.
That's who I am.
Jackson and I met at the Capitol Tuesday night. We talked a little bit. I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of informal consulting or connecting them. And,
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. In fact, we need to talk after the show. I've got some information I want to send to you.
Okay.
So
that'd be great. I sent you a text the other day. I don't know if you got it or not.
Oh my God. Okay. I'll take care of that.
Here you are ignoring the potential next senator of the United States.
I'll kiss his ring.
David, we ran into each other in Broken Arrow at a winery
of all
at a winery. I was at a winery. Don't tell everybody.
Oh, boy.
I just had to say that in case somebody was watching the Karen.
So where can they find?
Of course, Jesus wouldn't touch wine, would he? He just made it.
Turned water into it, So
he made non-alcoholic stuff.
Well, anyway.
Best Welch's there is. The best Welch's there ever was.
Jackson Lahmeyer, appreciate you joining us tonight. So you just
thanks for having me on.
Where were you speaking at again?
I was with a group called Kingdom Reign here in Tulsa, and then I'm heading to another. I'm going live on Facebook tonight. You want to hear some great news? Can I share some great news with you guys?
Yes, please do. Please do.
So the first quarter reports came out, and I've only been a campaign for 2 weeks of the first quarter. So we launched a campaign March the 16th, and the first quarter ended March the 31st, and we raised in cash almost $40,000 from over 300 individual donors, and 95% of those donors came from the state of Oklahoma. James Langford, he raised, as the incumbent, having the full 13 weeks, he raised $66,000 in cash from about 100 donors, and 95% of those donors came from outside of the state of Oklahoma. Isn't that amazing? So as an incumbent, to only raise $66,000 in cash from individual donors in 12 weeks, 95% of them being outside the state. We did very, very well on our second quarter reporting. It's going to be incredible. Now, where James did well was with those PACs, those people who owning, controlling. He did very well there. We did not do very well there. We did not do very well with the PACs. But
how about Rodney Howard Brown? Did he give you some money? Rodney Howard Brown?
He didn't give me any money, but he gave me some great advice. I'll tell you that much. And I'm going back to Rodney's church. Clay Clark has taken the Reopen America tour on the road. We're going from Tulsa, and we're heading down to Tampa, June the 17th, 18th, and 19th. So I'll be speaking out there. You want to hear some of the speakers? We got Roger Stone, Mike Lindell, General Flynn. It's going to be a party down in Tampa.
Good. Wow. My old roommate from Rhema days happened to be in town this weekend, and we talked about you. We met out at Rhema, and that he's in Tampa, and I mentioned you, and he said, well, gosh, next time he's coming to Florida, I want him to come by. He's in Tampa. He pastors a church there. He started.
Well, we'll have to get to connected then, because I'm heading down there next month or June.
So tell us why you're spending all this time in Florida.
Well, Florida seems to be the hot spot right now, doesn't it?
It does.
3,000 people a day are moving to Florida.
Yeah,
I was just given that number, 3,000 a day. General Flynn, who I've gotten very close to, he just moved to Florida. It seems like everybody's moving to Florida. Why is
Last
that?
week.
They got a great governor. They don't have any income tax, and they got great weather. Those are some
Last week we had Dr. Willie J. Montague on. He's running for Congress there in Florida,
Orlando.
Val Dennings.
You got to work on Orlando.
He's leading Florida is leading the nation and the world in this COVID thing and how to beat it down. Now, I know you got some speakers. You got General Flynn, Mike Lindell. Now, will David D'Ambroso be speaking at all?
You're going to have to take that up with Clay. You got to take that up with Clay.
I need you should get an invite for David D'Ambroso to do 5 minutes.
But I'll tell you, I am going, and we're doing a mini conference that what we did in Rama. We're taking it to Oklahoma City in June, and Clay Clark's going to host it. I'll speak. General Flynn will speak. We got a couple surprises also coming to Oklahoma City at the end of June. So you guys should do like a live show out there. I think you'd have a great time. It's going to be a Saturday night. I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh, we should do a live broadcast. That'd be fun.
I think you'd have a great time. Just my personal opinion.
God,
And you can get some of these guys, maybe have General Flynn come sit down with you and do a quick little interview, and some of these others that we'll have some good surprises.
Oh man, that sounds great. So I'll count on you I'll call you.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should
You're the leverage, right?
We could go to Florida and do an Oklahoma broadcast from Florida.
Well,
my wife is up for that. Okay, my wife.
You know what? There's a lot of patriots that go down there if they've done well, if they've had a good life, and you know what they give? They give to ministries. They give to politicians, good ones, liberty politicians.
Yeah, because to New Yorkers, Florida's like moving to Mexico.
Yeah.
Oldham's out on the edge there. I encourage him too much. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a great time, and what they're working on is this time, instead of 4,500 like we had at Rama, the goal, if they can get everything to align, is like 11,000 tickets.
Nice.
So it's just going to be we'll see. A lot of details still be worked out between now and then.
Good.
It's going to be good.
Okay.
I gotta say hats off to
any other cities.
I just want to say hats off. Can I just say I got a hat tip Clay Clark. I know before I was involved, I was interested in politics, and I said with Rhonda Vilmont Smith she gave out her telephone number, and I referenced Clay Clark because that's what he was on KFAQ, and Clay Clark gave out his telephone number on KFAQ, and I was interested in politics, and it's kind of I didn't know it at the time, but it was kind of a hook that led me towards running for mayor. So wow. Let's just take a bow, Clay Clark, for rounding this up, not only just bringing attention to Oklahoma through the Rama TV, Rama.tv, but he is taking the tour on. And so Clay Clark,
almost every state has almost reached out. Churches saying, hey, come here. This was amazing, guys.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So you've got a Tampa thing you're working on.
Go ahead. Jackson, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is we're working on Tampa. We've got some other states that are also, you'll see some things released here pretty soon. But this is what was beautiful. Clay and his team vetted every single person that they gave a ticket to. I mean, a personal phone call, found out 80% of the people who were at Rama, 80% of the 4,500 came from outside of the state of Oklahoma. Clay did that intentionally because these people were coming from Michigan and Ohio and Minnesota because they've been locked down for a year. I talked to these people, they were crying. They had been in just such, a form of slavery, and they had freedom here. It was incredible. I'm telling you guys what happened at Rama.
It is slavery.
Yes.
Unconstitutional
is what the man said.
And I was just so, America owes Clay Clark a thank you.
Yes, sir.
America owes Clay Clark a thank you.
Yes, sir. Van.
Okay. I'm hearing something about an event in Oklahoma City. Do you have any details?
Which event? Are you talking the one that we're putting on?
Yeah, like fairgrounds or something.
Okay, so we're working on a couple things. Here's what I can tell you for sure is happening. Saturday, June the 26th, we're putting on a mini conference in Oklahoma City. We'll release the venue this week of where it's going to be. We'll have a certain number of tickets, but these are going to be free tickets. But we will vet every single person because you guys saw what happened when President Trump came to Tulsa last year. 1 million tickets were sold. A lot of it was Black Lives Matter and Antifa just going on in TikTok.
There were scams.
Right. I knew some people that were in on faking the tickets.
So we will vet every person, and we'll pack the place out with patriots and patriots only, and we'll be very specific on which news outlets are allowed to be in. That was one thing the news was very upset with Clay, because the Clay didn't let him into the party. And I thought he did a good job of not letting them in, because they're going to write a bad story whether they were there in person or whether they're outside. So you might as well just keep them outside.
Yep. Good. Okay, Dan, so June 26th, something's happening in Oklahoma City. Details are to come. And you
June
said you had one
26th.
other event.
We've got some other things that are coming. And so we'll get those things all released out. Guys, I do have to run. I got to go in and now shoot another video, but I want to come back on at some point and let you guys put me through the grill. And
we only expect it every, once every 90 days. So, Action Jackson Lahmeyer, there he is. I appreciate you busting in on the show with breaking.
Thanks for having me.
And an update. Thank you, sir. And please get back to us soon. Next time we can see you.
Absolutely. You guys have a great evening.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. We're going to send you away.
Good night.
Thank you, Jackson. Wow. Gentlemen, what do you think about that?
Hey, I think that Senator Langford, if he had, if he caught a clue, he would know he could call in and get into our show just as quickly.
You know that I sent him back when we had Jackson Lahmeyer on before. I set myself out there with, when you invite a senator to be on your show officially through their website, you have to tell them where you live, what your address is, what your name is. I laid myself out there. If those freaking, there they are. The Senator Langford could come on, and I'll be glad to tell him what I've told everybody, and that is a woman's prerogative is to change her mind. And so once he's on, he can leave if he needs to. Yeah. They. The problem with that whole pronoun thing is this is what I've pointed out before on the show. Socialism has a basic flaw, and that is the value is that you get benefit from being in the group. But the problem is you don't get to pick the group. Even if you're in the group, they can kick you out of the group. So the idea that you're in the group is fraudulent. You don't get to pick the group. And this is the problem with the idea of pronouns. Oh, my pronouns are they, them, this, and that. But the problem is pronouns are like a nickname. You don't get to pick it. The group picks it for you. We call you Shorty. We don't give a damn what you think. Our name for you is Shorty. Okay, you don't get to pick your own pronouns. People pick it for you.
Yes.
Anybody? Am I wrong?
No, ask Howard Wolowitz if he got to be named Rocket Man, right? He was Fruit Loops because they said he's Fruit Loops. So that's good.
All right, look,
are we going to get on to something else?
Yeah, we better get on.
I think we've beaten GT to death.
Yeah, we have.
There's more to go on. Believe me, there's minutes more, but we will reset right now. You guys take yourself out. Make yourself invisible.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Everybody plays the game with Tommy. The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. Double stomp right foot. Boom, boom. The beliefs, the principles, and opinions, and the views of people just like me. Tommy McKay, your fine comedian and political humorist, the host of 3D Politics Live every Monday for more than 2 years now. Father of 5 and former Tulsa mayoral candidate, Tommy McKay. And of course, creator of SoonerPolitics.org, expert on Oklahoma state government, David Van, and David Oldham, the founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com, political leader, educational speaker, and a guy who's taught me more than I ever thought I could know about the Constitution, David Oldham. Here we go, gentlemen. You see how nice I am because I'm not done ragging on 6 minutes of Bynum, right? There's more to go. Let me just see. Oh, I might have turned it off. We barely got halfway through, but everybody agrees Bynum's trouble, right?
Yeah.
He
in this group, because we're all like you.
That's good. I play to the audience. But underspent, there's the idea where there's always a threat in the weather center. Stable revenue versus stable barometer. He says that he likes having the revenue coming in from the property tax because the property tax is more stable revenue, but he doesn't like it coming in from the city sales tax. And the reason is because it's a stable barometer, is what I
Well,
say.
yeah.
The sales tax tells you whether it's a city that sucks or a city that's good. And he doesn't want to run a city that sucks off of the sales tax.
That's a brilliant insight, Tom.
Thank you very much. Okay. So anyway, and then he talks about somebody named Nolan that's pushing the public safety routine.
Yeah,
for
that's JD Nolan. That's
hey,
what I was
because 6 years ago was when we already agreed through Vision 2025 that we're paying for public safety by denying the third penny sales tax in the Brown ordinance to use the third penny for general fund. We're totally screwed. GT Bynum is a screwball. And then we got to move on.
And I sat in the gallery of the House and watched as JD made her passionate argument for we need an additional revenue source for public safety. And she pitched it as, oh, we're not raising your taxes. We're just giving permission to communities to put it to a vote of the people. And so, but it's not going to be for capital improvements projects, which is historically the only thing that you can have these, millage votes for. So that's the problem.
Senator Sass had a call to repeal the 17th Amendment. We skipped it last week. We're going to skip it again because it's the pivotal thing that we all agree here on 3D politics, that we all agree the 17th Amendment needs to be repealed because we are a show about solutions. And the first solution right now is repeal the 17th Amendment. We're going to skip it, and I'll bring it up later. And we're going to skip Nathan Dahm. Even though, ladies, don't flatter yourself. You do not corner the market on the term whore, okay? Just because somebody says the word whore doesn't mean it's a girl, okay? So you ladies need to just back off.
And Nathan is a whore.
It's a whole thing. It's like ladies only get 80% of the blame they're due, where men get 100% of the blame they are due. And we suffer under that, where the ladies get a 20% benefit of taking blame.
But we actually get blamed for things that we didn't do.
Tom, technically, it's still the law in Oklahoma. And yes, I have a blog called It's Still the Law in Oklahoma.
I know this one.
To impugn a woman's chastity is still a misdemeanor, whether it's true or not. Look it up. It's in the Oklahoma statutes.
And you can't impugn something that's true.
It doesn't matter if it's true. If you call a woman a whore, you're guilty of a misdemeanor.
If I could quote Oldham, that's unconstitutional.
Call her a whore, call her slut, call her a bimbo, call her whatever you want. But I'm saying that the law is still on the books. Now, it hasn't been enforced in decades.
Yeah, but if I'm not impugning, if I'm just declaring what is, then is that, a misdemeanor?
It clearly says.
That's the question.
It clearly says whether it's true or not. It says it in the statute. Yes.
What about a man?
We need to see that. I want to see because I just haven't seen it.
I've got the blog for it. Now, I want to put this out, and I told Denise Crosswhite-Hader soon after she got elected, her first session, I said, do you have any bills this year? She says, this year I didn't want to write any. I'm just going to learn this process. And I said, well, I'm looking for a champion in this legislature that does nothing but just clean out the statute of laws we don't enforce.
Repeal, repeal, repeal.
Because here's the thing. Remember what our 10th grade civics teacher told us. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You're responsible to know the entire statutory code of your state. Even if they don't enforce it.
Right.
Or it's been ruled unconstitutional. When they leave it on the books, they expect you to know it and believe that it actually is a law.
Right.
And this is the laziness of our legislature. And I'm putting this call out again. If you're a legislator, you want to be my champion, my hero, the guy I actually give money to your reelection, you'll do this.
Joe Rogan response.
Yep.
All right, Van, gosh, I can't wait till next week and get back to that GT Bynum interview. But Van has got the state of Oklahoma. He's going to talk about sooner politics at the Capitol. Big stuff happened at the Capitol.
It was.
There, and it happened.
Yeah. I got a great day. I went early to do a little lobbying and try to put together my interim study on an overhaul of mental health, and we've got that going. I'm going to be announcing more, in the next couple of months, because this is end of the summer thing. So then I turned my attention to, the 1236. This is a bill that ostensibly authorizes the legislature, because, to challenge the constitutionality of an executive order by the President of the United States, or an agency rule that violates the 10th Amendment, our states' rights. So, because remember, we've limited our federal government. It's a child that we said you only get to do these things. Everything else belongs to the states and the people.
Right.
So, but Hunter has told the legislature in the past, and I got this from secondhand source, that there's no what's activating clause in our statutes that allows the legislature to step up and do a review. So to that, McCall said, well, then we need to write one. And McCall did, and then Greg Treat got all freaked out because he thought that the abolitionists would use that language to repeal a woman's right to an abortion.
Well, so here's the question. Where does this idea that you need a statute to do what the Constitution already declares is their duty?
We need to have Mike Hunter on, because evidently that's coming from him.
Well, okay. So we need to get Hunter, Tom, when you get back online, we need to get Hunter on the show and have him answer that question, because this was the big thing for me with 1236. Yeah. Although it looked great. I mean, the House version, the original version by McCall, and the House version as passed looked great. As I thought about it, I'm like, wait, the 10th Amendment already makes it the incumbent duty on every single sworn official to make a judgment of whether something is lawful or not, and whether or not they're going to participate.
Yeah.
So where's this need? And it's not alone. I've heard it from a sheriff. I'm not going to say which one, but I've heard it from somebody working for a sheriff, saying that the sheriff is saying they need statutory authority to actually live out the Constitution. And I'm like, no.
That is the statute.
That is the statute. Yeah. Now, what we need are teeth to the statute to say if you're not living it out, constitutions are principles. We do need statutes to bring into effect the principles. But if you're not living out the principle, then you're a criminal. You need to be prosecuted as such. So the question is, why the statute? And what is the statute doing? And that was my big problem with 1236 and the whole rigmarole of we've got to get this done. It's like, no, you don't. Just do it.
There's kind of an arbitrary rush in certain areas. Van, have you got a response to that?
Well, yeah, what went on with this rally, and yes, there were better part of 1,000 people there. I don't know. I can't count. There are definitely more than a few hundred, but I don't think it really got to 1,000.
It filled the entire 4th floor circle.
A lot.
Yeah.
Agree on a lot. There's a lot.
That's hundreds. That's multiple hundreds.
Right. And so, I've got an article out I posted yesterday. It's called The Woke Pro-Lifers. Okay. And it gives a lot of depth to understanding why Greg Treat may have done some of the things he did, and why this rally involved the groups that it did and didn't involve others.
Is Greg Treat a woke pro-lifer?
No, Greg Treat is the Senate President Pro Temp, who the abolitionists are living rent-free in his head. Okay?
Correct.
And to him, nullification is, it's blasphemy. Blasphemy to the state.
That is the underlying problem. The secondary problem are the abolitionists. But he doesn't believe that we have the right at the state level to nullify illegal federal dictates.
Yeah. And so what happened here, Don Spencer, you know, who's been very effective last few years in the legislature, has gotten a lot of bills passed. So he worked on this because this has a component to fight back against an executive order regarding Second Amendment rights. And that's what was really motivating him. But he said this really isn't a gun rights bill. This is a states' rights bill.
Correct.
And so the same executive order that might say, you know what, we're coming to take any of these massive 30-round clips because they're now banned, right, by executive order, might be the same executive order that says, okay, if you haven't been vaccinated, we're coming to your house and we're going to forcibly vaccinate you. I'm making it up. I know that sounds
die before you get the needle in my
scared
arm.
the hell out of me.
Right. But it would. What's happening here is McCall, who is the principal author of 1236, said, you know what? Let's lay out a process by which an official review of the state happens. Because, and I said to Oldham, and we've had some really good discussions about this,
right.
If the state officially takes a stand against the federal government, that protects the people from having to fight that battle on their own.
Correct.
You know, and so there is a proper way for this, and you'd like to think your state is respecting your constitutional rights more than your own president, maybe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but anyway, when I talk to the abolitionists, and I've developed some good friendships with some of them and we've worked together on some things, they really like the idea of nullification, much in the way some of the northern states in the 1850s used it to protect slaves. They just said, slaves, you get here, we'll give you sanctuary, we won't send you back. And even though the federal government says you got to send them back.
Yeah, the fugitive slave laws, they did not enforce.
Right. They didn't cooperate with at all. Okay. Correct. So they're wanting, the abolitionists are really wanting to use that nullification process where we say, no, we're going to do what we're going to do. Federal government, what goes on in our state is our business. That's the kind of narrative that they're saying. Unless it's interstate commerce, stay out of it.
You're listening to David Vann from SoonerPolitics.org on 3D Politics Live every Monday night right here on Facebook. 3D Politics Live with David Oldham and Tommy McKay, your fine host. Go ahead, man.
So the Ecclesia of Oklahoma is the name of a very, very prominent abolitionist group. Daniel Luvejas is the president of that, the leader there. And he said that they were a co-sponsor of this event. But you know what? Don Spencer didn't acknowledge that. He only said, we got OCPA, you know, Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs, OPAC, which is Oklahoma Conservative Political PAC, you know, and then the vaccine choice people and the OK2A. They never let Ecclesia come close to the microphone.
Nope.
But yet Treat has got Ecclesia and all the abolitionists living rent free in his head. And he's so sure that, my God, this might actually help the abolitionists. And so he just had nothing to do with it. Now, I did try a couple of strategies, and we talked about. One was getting Matt Pinnell to pick up the gavel and force a vote. Well, that would have worked, and we talked about this last week, except Senator Julie Daniels, who's the principal sponsor in the Senate, relinquished her sponsorship over to Treat because he said, well, I want to make a couple of changes. She did, and then he gutted it. And was he playing?
He poison pilled it.
Yes.
To death.
Right. And now 5 senators, Republican senators, said, we're not voting for that. In fact, we're taking our name off as co-sponsors of it. And the word is, and I got it from Don Spencer and from Daniel Luvejas, so Second Amendment and Ecclesia, said that punishments went out. Those 5 Republican senators who did not vote for it, he removed their bills from the calendar, so they didn't get a vote, including a vaccine rights, parental rights bill.
It's like a high school cliques all over.
It is. It's junior high. Yeah. It is so cliquish and vendetta, and Greg Treats all over it.
Well, this is why I am so adamant that we begin introducing bills and having every single rights organization introduce a bill that repeals all of the illegality that we're fighting, and whatever the issue, repeal it. And if they then deny it, then we can use that against them, because the entire point is they must hear our bill. They must, or that we introduce a bill that provides punishments for, you know, whatever it is, but they can't then lawfully vote against it without violating their oath of office. That's what we need to put in front of them. Then when Treat pulls these kinds of things, we can get him out on his ear by indictment over the next few months.
Yeah,
we can indict him for these kinds of things.
Now, I talked with the state party chairman just a couple hours ago, John Bennett, or about 3 hours ago, and you know, I was glad that he, you know, addressed this issue. He publicly called for, hey, Senator Treat, this needs a hearing. The only thing that I would say, and I thought he did a good job in that, the party has a responsibility to promote the principles of the party. How the legislature does that, you somewhat have to give them some license on how to climb the mountain, you know. But the point is, you got to climb this mountain. You got to take back our state's rights.
Correct.
And so, and Bennett did an even better statement supporting the parental rights on the vaccine issue. So I'm glad to see John Bennett, you know, stepping up here and promoting the party principles.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's the first time in how many years that we've actually seen that go on.
Yeah. Yeah. So
at the state level.
I see a trend, you know, not only do we want to repeal and remove, erase the 17th Amendment, you're talking about on this comment you're making here, Van, also that we need to remove, repeal, erase. The fact is that laws only restrict the law abiding.
Yeah, it's true.
Every law we have only restricts the people who follow the law. And the people who follow the law want them to have more and more laws to make sure we're safe. When laws don't make us safe, they only restrict the law abiding. So, I mean, I can see a theme here. Not only the 17th Amendment repeal, but repeal, like you've said, Van, like you said to me, the blue law of well, just because a man should be protected by the same call me a whore legislation as a woman. I mean, you can't call me a whore either. Right. Yeah. But I will stand by the fact that if you can't shame a slut, who can you shame? That's
well, and I would say just to not overblow it into hyperbole.
My job.
That the vast majority of our laws are unconstitutional. The vast majority do restrict the law abiding, which is the point, which makes them unconstitutional, because you cannot restrict the law abiding because they are unrestricted until they do something that violates other people's rights. They are unrestricted other than, you know, simple regulations, do it this way so that we can all get along doing it. But these prohibitionary acts, these dictatorial edicts, you can only do it if you do this and that first. You know, those are all unconstitutional, have got to come off the books.
I'll blame
that's
it on
the basis of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'll blame everything you say. We got a problem in the society. I'll blame it on the public schools. They've not taught anybody the understanding of the counterintuitive understanding. If you lower tax rates, you raise tax revenues. And the people are too stupid to understand that, because we've had 125 years of Woodrow Wilson's progressive, federally funded public schools indoctrination. They're all dipshits out there. And then the dipshits in the public schools want to blame the parents.
Well, and then we had
them, who trained the parents over the last 50 years?
And then we had Dr. Keynes from Harvard and so forth, who came along and said you can raise all those rates and nothing will happen.
So the Puritan aspect that Oldham brings us is that when you begin to define what is free, you're immediately restricting it. If I give you a list of what you're free to do, you're immediately restricted. I had this argument at the elementary school. They said, here's a list of occupations for the children. And I said, well, the prostitute and comedian's not on your list. Like, well, you know, and I'm like, but they are legitimate ways of making a living. So the point being made that by listing it, you literally limited it. And what we know from the reality of technology is any job that my 13-year-old that I take to school and pick up and drop off that she's going to do in the future hasn't even been invented yet. Had I known webmaster was a thing, maybe I would have. You know, but I didn't know.
You know, Tom, you bring up a fabulous point, and that is the reason that we have the 9th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
And why is that?
The 9th Amendment says anything we haven't thought about and listed is your right.
Yeah.
It's retained to we the people.
Man, what do you got?
Well, Tom, you said a lot of things, and I want to just wrap this all into one thing. When the federal government got an individual income tax passed, we actually had to amend the Constitution, which specifically said that the federal government couldn't tax the people, okay? So we had to repeal that so that we could do a tax, but here's how they sold it. Remember, this is what, 1906. What do we have? A mass of immigrants over the previous 20, 25 years had come to America. Masses, right? Right. Are they rich? No, they're poor. They're just starting out. They're coming here because we're giving free land, right, to farm on. And we said an income tax is only going to be applied to people making more than $1 million a year, right? Well, guess what, folks? Are you a millionaire? Do you still pay income tax? Yes, you do. In fact, it gets worse. When I was working Rick Santorum's campaign, I remember he finally issued his and found out he was paying a net 29% federal income tax. Rick Santorum, not a particularly wealthy man. But you know what? A multi-billionaire, Ross Perot, he paid a net 7% income tax. So what does that mean? The super wealthy, which we're supposed to be the only ones we tax, they were the ones getting taxed at 1/4 the rate of guys like Rick Santorum.
To me, this is a story of inflation, okay? Because it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire, this is my comment. Remember when I talked about minimum wage? And wage is not the definition of a man. Experience in the industry and advancement in an industry. That's the definition of a man. Numbers. What am I, a piece of meat to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say when you say millionaire, you're reducing me to a number. And so if the government, like I said, this is a story of inflation. The government controls the printing press. The government controls the inflation. The government decides how much my dollar is worth. It's like Bitcoin. And so now, it's like, so why is a loaf of bread cost $5 when it cost a nickel 100 years ago? Not because a loaf of bread's any different, because a dollar is a worthless piece of crap. So he's, oh, you're a millionaire. I'm not a loaf of bread and a piece of meat is what I am. Okay, This is a story of inflation. It has nothing to do with wage or number of dollars, because number of dollars are not moored to any reality. There's no reality.
Yeah.
It's totally Bitcoin virtual reality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to finish anything. Well, Van, I think you said it right. But I mean, there's your state of Oklahoma, Sooner politics at the Capitol. Anything big at the Capitol before we move on to Oldham talking about DC statehood?
Just go one more thing in my conversation with John Bennett tonight. He is creating an ad hoc committee that it appears that Shane Jemison and I are going to be working on together. So I'm looking forward to continue work with him. And it's going to be actually cleaning up some of our data, our website, our communications, and making it a whole lot easier for any member of the party to get the information they need right away online on the website.
Good. You got to get Bennett to agree to, a quarterly interview. We need to bring on
Yes,
every
yes.
90 days. It doesn't have to be exactly anything. Just
we'll do that.
every
In
90
fact,
days to
I'm sure
focus
he'll
the
be happy to do
GOP
that.
message, and we'll see if we can get Lahmeyer to do the same thing.
I'm going to press him because Bennett came on our friend, Leslie Nesmith did a show last Thursday, and he was on there. So yes, Bennett will. In fact, he said, I may need to come on 3D politics to answer this Muslim stuff that they're throwing at me. So,
oh yeah, I got
his
it.
idea.
I haven't heard what they're throwing at him now.
Oh, it's the same old recycled crap.
No. I'll tell you what it is. It's a whole bunch of anti-marine discussion.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of anti-marine rhetoric.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm probably going to start going over to the Capitol one day a week.
I'm sorry, Van. You started the fire because I was ready for this when we interviewed Bennett. We never got into it. It's like wouldn't it be actually reasonable to suggest that people who chant "Death to America" are anti-American?
Sure, they are.
And aren't they also like anti-marine?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between anti-marine and anti-Muslim?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is heads against tails? Is edge in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
All right. Anyway, that's my report. I'm looking forward to working more with the new administration. Both Shane.
Way to go, Van. Way to bring us that heavy-hitting news from the Capitol. And if you can line up that every 90 days from Bennett,
absolutely,
that will help. I think the GOP focus its message because we're entertaining and exciting around.
Sure, we are. If you don't believe it, just ask us. We'll tell you.
My gosh. Okay. Now because everything revolves around on what I care about, I begged Oldham to give us his input on DC statehood and constitutionality of it, ? Because I don't like it immediately but that's just the hair on the back of my neck.
Mm-hmm.
So Oldham, tell us about DC statehood. Isn't it a lie?
It is actually, because the entire point of DC.
Listen to David Oldham right now teach you about the lie that is DC statehood from 3D Politics Live.com every Monday night. Go, Oldham.
So let's just take a quick look. And did you give me sharing privileges?
You should have. Everybody should be able to share.
Look here, share my screen. And there we go. Let's just take a peek at what the Constitution actually says. In Article 1, Section 8, the next to the last clause, it says that Article 1, Section 8 starts out with Congress shall have the power, and then it goes on to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may by session of particular states, that would be Maryland and Virginia, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States.
You've almost lost me. You almost lost me.
Okay. And to exercise authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature. Okay. So what this says is the Constitution says that Congress shall have exclusive, meaning the only, sole, no other can exercise it. No state, you can't turn it into a state because Congress has exclusive legislation over it. This is a thing where they have literally taken land from Maryland and Virginia, and those states have ceded the land to the federal government.
Yeah, I'm sharing on a map here. You can see the outline. Now, Virginia took their land back, but you can see 2/3 of it is still there out of originally Maryland. So I just want
they're wanting to turn this area into a state. And then what Oldham is saying is that only Congress can decide it's a new state.
So, well, no, Congress can't even decide.
Who can?
Congress can't give them legislative authority over that land.
Yes, that's correct.
The Constitution reserves that authority for Congress and Congress alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what exclusive legislation means.
Now, here's a way that both sides could get what they want, is that Congress could authorize some other territory and grab it with the participation of whatever states or domains, and then relinquish this back to the 2 states it came from. In this case, 1 is all that's left, Maryland.
Well, actually, no.
Then why
not directly, because here's the problem. If they did that, first off, you have to have a repeal of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Then you have to have the property go back to the state in which it originated, because
that's what I said.
They have property to it, property rights.
That's what I
to
said,
it.
yes. Because Virginia already took theirs back.
Okay, right. Then, so Maryland would then also, Maryland could just absorb the land, or and if they absorb the land, then it would just become Maryland, no new state.
Right.
Or otherwise, Maryland would have to allow for the new state and then also Congress. So it takes both.
But you said repealing something. And you said to take a repeal of something, you name numbers, but what is the substance of that had to be repealed?
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 must be repealed.
What's the substance of it? I don't need the number, I need the substance.
That Congress shall have exclusive legislation over the land.
No, it wouldn't. I'm saying they would go find other land for this purpose, because the article didn't say it had to be between these 2 states.
Well, okay, but if they then left DC for another state or for another piece of land,
sure, let's say Missouri and Illinois.
Fine, Missouri,
put it right on the Mississippi.
Grant them, first of all, grant them the place,
right,
and then secondly, then they would have to, the land would then of DC would then revert to Maryland at the first. I mean,
correct.
By all rights, Maryland
That's
has
exactly what I said. Yes.
And then they would have to approve it. Now you could do that. But it is unlikely that any other state is going
very
to grant
unlikely.
That.
Yeah.
And where is where is Congress going to give up our traditional seat of power?
Yeah.
That's never going to happen.
Oh, I think Utah would love to give 10 by 10 square miles.
You think?
I think Utah or Nevada would love to give that. I mean, think of the revenue it would generate.
I got a question because you
still don't have a DC state.
Right, exactly.
That's just my point.
The people who live in Bethesda and all that area of Maryland would now have voting rights.
I have a Boston Terrier, and she is damn smart, but she's deaf, and so I'm trying to translate. So, is there the area that they want to turn into a state? It's already represented by statehood somewhere, right?
No. Collectively.
Actually, no. Actually,
not a state.
If you live in the DC. If you live within what is Washington, D.C., you are not represented by a state. Now, you do have a representative in Congress and you do have a senator.
Put an asterisk by that.
From where? If you don't live in a state, where do you get your representation in Congress?
There's an asterisk. They are a non-voting member of Congress.
Like the Indians. I'm sorry. Indians, what did I say?
Here
the Native Americans.
Screen again.
No, the Native Americans get a seat.
No, let me share my screen again, because this is why it's important to know this stuff.
I'm pressing for understanding.
Okay, let's just read exactly what it says. The 23rd Amendment says the district constituting the seat of government in the United States shall appoint in such manner as Congress may direct a number of electors of president and vice president, to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event none more than the least populous state. They should be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they should be considered for the purposes of the election of president and vice president to be electors, and they shall meet in the district. It says
Right.
Congress shall have power to enforce this article by proper legislation. So at least for president and vice president, they don't actually have representation in Congress.
Well, they do and don't. It's almost like an ambassador. They're a
It's kind of like
non-voting.
the representative, the Congress people from the Cherokee Nation, Puerto Rico.
No, I'm talking Guam actually has a representative
Correct.
there, but he doesn't get to vote.
Correct. Well, same thing with
But he gets
with
to
the
be
Cherokee Nation.
involved in the debate and the discussion of there. That's what I understand.
They've actually got to cast votes in some committees depending on whether or not Pelosi's in charge.
Correct.
Yeah, it's
Correct.
it's screwball stuff, folks. It just is.
It is.
So bottom line though, DC statehood, is it constitutional?
No. Well, not directly as they are trying to do it.
Not as Columbia.
written.
Not as Columbia. I gave the only scenario in which they could is they would revert back to Maryland.
Now,
You have
Van,
to revert to Maryland.
Van, I'm going to ask you because I know you work with him personally, but I'm going to have Oldham verify it through his constitutional understanding. What was the founding fathers' attitude about the District of Columbia and the idea that was it supposed to be an area that isn't it a national park?
In fact, I'll give you a little bit of background.
Back
There
up
actually
just
is
a minute.
there's federal law in this. Okay. Mark Wayne Mullen and I were working the Republican booth at the state fair a few years ago. It was when
Right.
Obama decided to do the selective shutdown of like military monuments,
I
and
remember.
military cemeteries, right?
Yes, sir.
And Mark Wayne and I were talking. He said, I came back. One, I wanted to be at the fair here, meet the people, but I came back to get my tools because I got to bring my cable cutters. He said, because he says, we've got honor flights coming from Oklahoma to the Capitol to see the World War II monument. And you know what? By God, they're going to get in there and I'm going to make sure of it. He says, because while Congress is in session, they can't arrest me. Okay. So these are the powers they do just so a state can't control or hijack or kidnap Congress. There's a lot of reasons why we do it this way.
Oldham?
That's very true.
And in fact, there's even in the Constitution that you cannot detain a congressman riding horseback across the country through whatever state he's in. Because he's on his way to Congress and you got to let him go.
Correct. And that was done so that they could actually do the job of Congress. Now, they weren't allowed to be committing treason along the way, and there were exceptions to that, but treason being about the only one. So yes, that is absolutely correct. But in answer to your question, Tom, because Obama never had the right to shut down our monuments. They're not his monuments, they're our monuments.
Right.
And there's no shutting them down without expending people to enforce the shutdown.
Yes. It costs them more money to shut it down.
If he's actually shut down because they don't have money, he can't enforce anything by definition.
This is like enforcing defunding the police. It's like, well, who's going to make sure they're defunded?
Well, that's just, you don't
and
give.
Tom, case in point, that weekend that Mullen was in town here, Obama was out at Camp David. He didn't shut it down.
Yeah, he did.
All right, go on, Oldham.
But the other thing is that, and I forgot my point now.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. Is that DC was intended to be a seat of
government,
federal government.
Yeah.
And that no state could then exercise some authority over that federal piece of property.
Until Virginia did just that.
Well, but that's separate.
As not near as learned as you guys, but as a philosopher of logic, I mean, isn't it logical that DC should not be a state because it's the binding, it's the geographical area that allows the people go to that area to bind the union together in a loose federation. If it were a state, it would just be another equal, what hell,
that
if
is the point.
DC was a state, it'd be the biggest, baddest state.
That's the point.
Why is it that we have all these millions of acres of what they call national parks? Why isn't, if you want to make
now you get into a separate issue.
Well, that's a whole nother thing, because why in the hell isn't, if you want to make DC a state, why don't you make it a national park first? Why don't we make Yellowstone a state?
Because you didn't. Well, first of all, where constitutionally do you have any authority for a national park?
Yeah.
Number two,
but
number two, this is a constitutional issue. This was part and parcel to the original Constitution.
Right.
So this is something that is clearly constitutional, a clear constitutional issue. And that the state has right to its own land, and if it were to revert back, that Maryland would have a claim to it, is another constitutional issue.
And states having its rights to its own land, and that is a critical issue.
And that's the point.
I come back with 3D Politics right here live every Monday night. Do it, man.
Yeah, and I want to clean up this point about Virginia. Why did they take their land back? It was called the Civil War.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Confederate States, their capital was in Richmond, just down the road, maybe an hour and a half. Okay, but yes, they took their land
by horseback, folks.
Well, I know, but
Oldham, I've told you, don't try to be.
Anyway, so but here's the thing, and it was a rub with the northern states. They're like, hey, Virginia wants back in. Well, first of all, we forced them back in. They wanted to stay separate, but they allowed Virginia to keep all that land.
Right.
So, go figure.
Right.
So Virginia got their cake and eat it too, right?
Except for Arlington, which most people don't know, was the ancestral home of Robert E. Lee.
They stole that from him. They literally stole it. They made that
they claimed it as blood right.
No, later
for his treason.
Decades later, they paid by eminent domain rules. They paid his descendants for that land. So yeah, that's what he did. But you know what? You see federal buildings all over, but they didn't take the whole territory. They just claimed they don't have to obey our laws. But there's a federal courthouse in downtown Tulsa.
Well, we also gave them authority to put it up.
Sure. Yeah.
So the state of Oklahoma actually had to authorize the federal courthouse and allow them to be here.
Yeah.
That was the problem with the beginning of the Civil War is they were kicked out without actually having gone through the proper processes to kick them out. They just kicked them out after having granted them authority.
Right. And this was what the hotheads at Fort Sumter did that actually caused the war to start, was they both claimed this island off of the Carolina coast in Charleston. Correct. And so it might have been a very peaceful separation if it hadn't been for the hotheads. And the fight was over who owns those federal installations.
Correct.
How is it? That's what I love about 3D Politics. We have a long format. We're not a short format. A lot of people that I admire in the talk radio industry, they hit, 15 topics in a half hour, and then it's this and that. And I say one thing and it's all sound bites. But what we do here is long format, and we get into the weeds and we're willing to argue about it. And so I appreciate what you guys are bringing to the argument or the discussion here. But I gotta say, as we belabor the point, which is I think what I tried to brag about. The reason I'm fat is because it makes me looks good. How is it, I wonder, that a federal government that is an organization that is an administrative organization, it's not this has to do with geographical ownership of land. How is it that a federal government owns land? I do not understand this. I thought that the state owns the park. The state owns the land. If you live in a state that has a Great Lake in it, wonderful you, because you have this, this great resource, that is in your state. How is it that the federal government encroaches and by assuming ownership of Yellowstone National Park, which is more than 2 miles square?
Well, now you get into the argument made by the Bundys in Las Vegas, or outside of Las Vegas, Nevada, and in Oregon, because they're saying that the federal government doesn't actually have authority to take over those things. They're saying that the state didn't grant them the authority over those lands, and so therefore the state retains the authority. The federal government has no jurisdiction, etc. That was the basis of their argument in its entirety. And so, and those questions, I don't know, because that comes down to the individual states. Because we do, as a state, grant them
Bundy thing where they shot the guy dead.
No, they shot another guy dead.
In Oregon, yes, they did. They did shoot Lavoie.
Isn't this? I mean, I don't want to be macabre.
That was state police.
Yeah.
Over a federal issue.
But I mean, if everybody says that's unconstitutional, it's going to come down to an issue of force, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it really is. And I want to say what happened to the Bundy ranch. The first one is they literally stole his cattle. They were cattle rustlers. And the federal government says, hey, they're not supposed to be on this land. You don't have rights. You're not paying us rent. We're taking your cattle because we told you before and you still do it.
And he's like, my family's been doing this for 150 years.
Yeah. Now, to that argument, how many times over the last 4 decades I've been in Oklahoma have I heard, oh, yeah, the tribes all disbanded their reservations. There are no reservations in Oklahoma. And everybody said it until the Supreme Court dug into it and said, by God, McGirt was right.
Well, so Van, as this comes up in future shows, I guarantee you we'll be talking about this. Is 2/3 of, would it be accurate to say 2/3 of Oklahoma is under reservation tribal Indian law?
Definitely the 5 civilized tribes that we hear talk so much about. They're proud of themselves because they say, well, we're this tribe, we're civilized, the Poncas, they're not, so, but anyway, it depends how far you want to go, because there's like 40 or 50 different tribes, but the big ones are 5, and it's probably half of Oklahoma.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we have had an exciting show tonight. We have talked about a lot of stuff, and Action Jackson Lahmeyer, who just broke in with his hackers and snuck in on our show.
Called.
Look at that, Clay Clark just breaking open the whole freaking world out there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is just knocking it down. So anything else before we get out of here? What did I forget? I'm sure I forgot something.
No, actually you didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, we do have one thing.
Yeah.
And that is what I teased at the very beginning.
Yes.
So Thursday, May 13th.
May.
6:30 p.m.
Where?
At the Old Wood Lake Assembly, which is at 7100 31st Street in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Okay, 31st Street South, between Sheridan and Memorial.
Yes.
Right in the middle.
The sign on it right now says Sanctuary Church.
Okay. Well, that's, I didn't know what its name is, but that's what it's called.
Yeah, I drove by there the other day, noticed that sign there,
At
just
this
a few days.
point, that is where it is going to be held. Now, you do need to go to the Tulsa 912 Project site on Facebook or on the web. Look for it, Google it. They do have an Eventbrite that they have up. They are looking to try to find out if they have room for everybody that's going to be here. We are expecting to maybe have to change venues because this is that big a deal.
It's exploding.
This is huge. And so anyway, Tulsa 912 Project. Nigel Farage, the leader of the Brexit movement in Great Britain, will be in Tulsa to speak to anybody who loves liberty. And the man is awesome. I can't wait to meet him. And I look forward to actually getting a chance to spend a few days with the man.
Oldham,
So
I've got to bring this to your attention, Oldham. I'm at the Tulsa 912 Project Facebook page, and there is no event for this.
Okay, well, keep looking. We will make sure it's up because I know that it's coming up, but sign up for the 912 Project on their page at the very least, and we will make sure that it gets properly promoted the rest of the way out. I'm doing this on my own because I'm that excited about it.
I was supposed to apply for the webmaster position on that. I don't know.
Here we go. I've got it, guys. It's actually just a picture. And it is, join us today for FreedomWorks webinar. Okay. Actually,
that was the webinar that I participated in.
Okay.
Well, I participated in a couple of them, but that was the FreedomWorks.
Yeah, that was early. Yeah, it was like 10 days ago. So
correct.
So it's not that, but that's the guy, Nigel Farage. That's a picture of him violating the European Union on his last day there and raising the Union
waved
Jack.
His flag, and they said, "That's out of order." Came bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, and he says, "We're out of here." And they said, "If you're leaving, go and take your silly flags with you."
It was awesome.
Absolutely.
And this man has been raked over the coals like we get. I mean, more than we get raked because we haven't become anything important.
Yeah,
he was claimed all sorts of bad things. Going back to your Nathan Dom thing that you wanted to talk about, Dom, and we didn't get to talk about. You know, when you're somebody and you're clean, they're gonna make up all sorts of things about you.
They go
and
out.
That's what they've done to him. He's going to talk. He talked about that on the webinar, and he will no doubt be talking about those kinds of things as he comes into town. So don't miss it. It is a night to remember.
Now, where do they find it?
No cost.
Quick before we get out of here, where do they find it?
Go to the 912 Tulsa 912 Project website. You'll have to Google it. I don't have the. I think it's
what is
Tulsa
it?
912project.org or something like that.
Tulsa912project.com or .org.
I don't know.
.org. Tulsa912project.org. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, sign up, and you'll be included in the mailing list at the very least. But we watch for it. We will be promoting it, and we will go from there.
Yeah, Oldham, actually, that domain name has expired.
Okay, well, just I don't know.
Downer, what in the hell is happening here?
Next week, be back here. We'll have the details. Next week.
Better details.
Shoulder mounted dismount. So, anything else before we get out of here, guys?
Thank you for being here.
Is that it? Listen, we covered GT Bynum's shitty budget. And nobody still lives in Tulsa. We did the 17th Amendment that we're going to get. Actually, we didn't do it. 17th Amendment comes next week. Nathan Dom, I guarantee you we're going to talk more about that. You ladies do not own the word slut. Men can be it. Thank you, Van, for bringing us the state of Oklahoma, Soonerpolitics.org. at the Capitol Update, and Oldham teaching us about how DC statehood should and should not work. I am your fantastic host, Tommy McKay, right here with you every week. We'll see you guys next week.